On Thursday afternoon, Judge Eileen Cannon issued her ruling where she said she was not going to grant Donald Trump's motion to dismiss the documents case against him. However, the ruling itself was a bit odd. According to legal analyst, legal expert, and of course former prosecutor Joyce Vance the Waivate, Cannon actually wrote this ruling in Vance's words was, quote, deliberately dumb. Let me read you this sentence from Judge Cannon's ruling that Vance specifically calls out. Judge Cannon wrote the overall question presented depends too greatly on contested instructional questions about still fluctuating definitions of statutory TU terms phrases, as charged along with at least some disputed factual issues raised in the motion. And Joyce Vance said this about particular sentence and so many other sentences in this idiotic ruling. The judge's ruling was virtually incomprehensible, even to those of us who speak legal as our native language. If you tried to write something that was deliberately dumb, this sentence would be it. Trump's motion didn't raise any argument that warranted serious consideration, and the court's determination was made before the lengthy oral argument she heard today, unless she typed her written opinion upon a 15-minute break in it. It looks like that kind of sentence a law clerk might decide was insufficiently precise for anyone to understand, which could be its appeal here for Judge Cannon. But I'm afraid of what I think it means, and Vance does go on to explain what she thinks it means, and that is what she calls the nightmare scenario. But let me point something out here that Vance said that is obviously very concerning. She had that ruling ready to go when the arguments were done like this too. Doesn't page ruling was already like here. You got thanks for talking. She wrote the ruling had made her determination before the arguments even happened. That like that alone. If that is what happened, of course Jack Smith needs to immediately go to the appellate court and be like, you can't do that, you can't issue your ruling before you have heard from us on the matter that you're about to rule on. That is judicial misconduct, and Eileen Cannon should not just be removed from this case, she should be removed from bench entirely for doing that. That is the kind of thing, by the way, that a judge can be completely removed from the bench for doing. I'm not talking about taking her off this case. I am talking about stripping her of her job. That is what should happen at this point if what Vance is saying is correct. If she wrote a ruling prior to the hearing on what she was supposed to rule upon, that's judicial misconduct, and there is no excuse for that. She should be disbarred and thrown off the bench now. As for what Vance thinks this idiotic ruling means, shares what she said about that. If the judge had ruled against the government today, the special counsel could have appealed, but that's not the case. If after today's ruling in the government's favor, she permits Trump to resurrect the motion at trial, she could grant them motion to dismiss the case then, and at that point, with very rare exceptions, the judge would be in a position to prevent the government can't appeal. That's because once a jury has been impaneled, double jeopardy attaches and prevents the government from retrying the defendant on the same charges if he's acquitted, which is what would happen if the judge granted a motion to dismiss at that point, and before a jury rendered a guilty verdict. That's the nightmare scenario here. So even though Cannon did